Hello students, this is an important video about ICI valuation process, stepwise marks allocation and examiner comments on students' performance. After declaration of results, ICI releases not only suggested answers but also examiners' comments on the performance of examinees. Go through ICI website, suggested answers May 25. You just scroll down, you'll find a document called examiner comments on performance of examinees group 1. Click on it. So this is nothing but feedback of your valuers. The persons who valued your answer booklets, at the end of valuation, they express their opinion. Where students' performance is good, where students' performance is poor. Reading these comments, you can avoid these kind of common mistakes so that you can perform better, you can score better in upcoming examinations. For the time being, I'll explain examiner comments on the performance of students with respect to paper 2, corporate and other laws. So for this, I had a question paper, May 25 attempt question paper and examiner comments as well as suggested answers. Let's see one by one. Now, first question, the requirement of first question is discuss the procedure how these persons shall subscribe to the MOA and AOA. So, in the question, they asked about, individuals, residents, non-residents, and, LLP, private limited, that means artificial persons. So how they can subscribe, how these people can subscribe MOA and AOA. Let's see examiner comments. First, many examinees, that means many students, did not attempt this compulsory question, and among those who attempted, most could not clearly explain the legal points involved. Only few attempted this question, and that too they did some mistakes. What are those mistakes? Common mistakes. Thinking that LLP, private company, cannot subscribe to MOA, AOA. Now, being a body corporate, it can become member of another company. But majority students, who attempted this question, they made a mistake. What mistake they did? So they told that they cannot subscribe. LLP and private company cannot subscribe to MOA, AOA. Believing that a non-resident cannot become a member of a company. Assuming that only Indian citizens can be subscribers to the MOA, AOA of the company. So these are the mistakes committed by the students who attempted this question. And if you look at suggested answers, this question is asked for 5 marks. And with respect to Amrish, first person, if you write this highlighted content, if you have written this highlighted content, half mark will be allocated. For Robert, valid business visa. Sir, you wrote everything except valid business visa. Then, you will get 0 marks for this step. Next, Eliza, a foreign national, for her, this points to be highlighted. Proof of identity shall be notarized by notary with a certificate. And if a person residing in a country outside Commonwealth which is not a party to Hague Apostille Convention 1961, the certificate of notary public shall be authenticated by a diplomatic or consular officer. So if you write these two sentences, 1 mark will be allocated. Next, for Goma Devi, since illiterate, yes, the person writing for him must sign the MOA, AOA. So affix her thumb, impression or mark, and the person writing for him shall place the name of subscriber against or below the mark and authenticate it by his own signature, and he shall also write against the name of the subscriber. So if you have written this content, 1 mark will be allocated. Next, for LLP, authorized board resolution copy. Duly authorized by a resolution approved by the partners of LLP, 1 mark will be allocated. Next, for Mohit Electronics Private Limited, director or officer or employee of the body corporate duly authorized in his behalf by the board of directors, board resolution, 1 mark will be allocated. So just assess yourself whether you have written this highlighted content or not. If you have written highlighted content, then obviously marks will be allocated. Getting my point, students? Next, let's see second question. So second question, the requirement is appointment of the auditor in case of casual vacancy. So they asked about casual vacancy due to accident of the existing auditor. Existing auditor died due to some accident. Now how that casual vacancy will be filled out, and whether the contention raised by Keshav is justified, regarding tenure of the appointed auditor in case of casual vacancy. In case of casual vacancy, if some other person is appointed as an auditor, so what would be his tenure? And the third question is, if the casual vacancy in the office of statutory auditor was caused by resignation, then what would be your answer? So what is the difference between point 1 and point 3? In point 1, casual vacancy, yes, it can be filled by board of directors by passing board resolution. But if that casual vacancy is caused by resignation, then in addition to board resolution, members approval in general meeting is also required. So members have to ratify within 3 months of board recommendation, right? Let's see examiner comments. Most of the examinees wrote correct answers for part 1 and part 2. However, part 3 was not answered correctly. Casual vacancy due to resignation. Not able to appreciate that Keshav was appointed in casual vacancy and has to step down at the conclusion of next AGM, since his tenure was only till the conclusion of next AGM. So, students who wrote answer, they wrote incomplete, they wrote, partially, they wrote it partially. That means answer is not yet completed. Part answer only they attempted. And part 3, it was incorrect. And you can see suggest answers, with respect to first part of B question. Board of directors have to fill up the casual vacancy within 30 days. This time limit is very important. In case company is having an audit committee, then audit committee recommendation shall be taken into consideration. 1 mark allocation. Next one, contention by Keshav is justified or no. So the tenure will be till the next AGM only. Tenure ends with the next AGM. Hence, contention raised by Keshav is not justified. So for conclusion, half mark, and for provision, 1 mark. So if you straight away write the conclusion, you'll get only half mark. You won't get 1.5 mark. You'll get 1.5 mark only if you write provision and conclusion. Next, third part, if you observe, yes, casual vacancy in case of resignation, it should be approved by the company at a general meeting within 3 months. This time period is important. 1 mark allocation. And for conclusion, half mark allocation. Are you getting my point, students? So if you don't highlight the provision, if you don't write provision and just if you are writing conclusion, you'll end up with getting just half marks only. Next, let's see. Third question. Mr. V is a person of Indian origin. This is about FEMA. FEMA, residential status only. So previously non-resident. During his when he was non-resident, he acquired some assets. Now he came back to India. He got residential status in India. Now what he can do with his foreign assets? That is the requirement of this question. Let's see examiner comments. Most examinees were able to correctly apply the provisions of FEMA relating to eligible foreign assets and remittances. Majority of the examinees answered explaining the correct legal position. So here the performance of students is good. Majority of examinees answered explaining the correct legal position and concluding that since Mr. V, who is residing in India since 2024, is now a person resident in India and he is permitted to hold his bank account in USA and also pay insurance policy from that account. However, some answered only part relating to insurance premium in a yes or no manner, leaving out holding of foreign bank balances. So this is where students are committing mistakes. So this mistake is, they didn't wrote incorrect answer. They wrote correct answer, but that answer is partial. That means what? They wrote just half answer. So what about foreign bank balances? Can they hold it or not? That is the point. And if you observe these suggested answers, somewhere they are mentioning sections and somewhere they are mentioning like this, as per provisions of Foreign Exchange Management Act 1999. That's what I am telling you. If you know section numbers, write it, or else at least write as per provisions of Companies Act, as per provisions of General Clauses Act, as per provisions of Limited Liability Partnership Act. At least you write as per provisions. Clear? So he was resident outside India when he acquired assets. He was a resident outside India. And few points also you can see here. Finally, conclusion, you can see person resident in India and is permitted to hold his bank account in USA. So students forgot to write this point. That's it. 1 mark lost. You know the concept, but presentation incomplete. Obviously, performance also poor only. Getting my point? So first question completed. 1A, 1B, 1C completed. Next question. This is about deposits. With respect to deposits, whether they comes under deposits or they are exempted deposits, what is the examiner comments? Let's see. Question 2A. Most of the examinees answered correctly for 1 and 2. This 1 and 2, yes, attempted correctly. But with respect to 3, what happened? Let's see. The answer was partially correct. Many examinees could not bring the correct legal position that any amount raised by issue of non-convertible debentures not constituting a charge on the assets of the company and listed on a recognized stock exchange as per the applicable regulations made by SEBI will not be treated as deposit. So provision, they wrote it incomplete. Provision was incomplete. The provision students have written is incomplete. So generally these kind of questions, for provision 1 mark and for conclusion half mark. Provision 1 mark, conclusion half mark, 5 marks, right? So 4.5 marks you can score if your provision and conclusion is correct. And for good handwriting, balance half marks. Next, question 2b. Question 2b is about, prospectus. So in prospectus, there are some misstatements. One person subscribed shares looking at prospectus, and other person acquired shares from stock exchange. Other person acquired shares from stock exchange. You can see Mr. D. He kept Mr. C. Yeah, Mr. C, impressed by this statement, subscribed to the shares of the company. He was allotted 1,000 shares. He subsequently sold shares 250 to Mr. D. That means Mr. D is subsequent purchaser. He is not allottee. He is subsequent purchaser. Now, they are asking about rights of Mr. C and Mr. D, about rescission. So, Mr. C can resign contract with respect to the shares he is holding. And Mr. D cannot resign the contract because he is not original allottee, he is subsequent purchaser. Let's see examiner comments. Yeah, for 2b and 2c examiner comments are not there. We'll see suggested answers. 2b and 2c, we'll see suggested answers. So with respect to 2b, yes, for misstatement, what is misstatement? 1 mark. This is, my way of allocation of marks, which is most similar to ICA only. I have seen ICA suggest answers, I have seen valued papers. So based on that only I am giving, how marks will be allocated. This is just my opinion. For right of rescission, 1 mark allocation. Exceptions, when right of rescission is not available, 1 mark. And conclusion, with respect to C, 1 mark, with respect to D, 1 mark. In this way, 5 marks will be allocated. If you miss out any 1 point, 1 mark will be lost. That's it. In this way only valuation will happen. Next one, question 2C. Question 2C is about General Clauses Act. Singular includes plural. Singular includes plural. So in 2C, allocation will be like, definition of key managerial person. Next one, whole time key managerial personnel. Next one, provisions under General Clauses Act. Singular includes plural. So I allotted 1 mark, might be 2 marks. If difference comes, maybe this is for 2 marks. These two together 1 mark. 2 together 1 mark, and for provision under General Clauses Act 2 marks allocation will happen, and finally for conclusion 1 mark. So straight away if you write conclusion you'll get only 1 mark. Provision plus conclusion you'll get 3 marks. And if your answer is complete in all aspects, like if you have written KYC definition, sorry, it's not KYC, KMP, if you write a definition of KMP, another 1 mark will be allocated. So like this 4 marks allocation process will happen. Next, let's see question 3. Question 3. Disclosures required to be made on the face of prospectus, conditions for inclusion of expert statement, date of publication of prospectus. Let's see examiner comments with respect to 3A. Majority of examinees have provided correct answers to all the parts of the question, barring a few examinees who could not provide correct answers to 3A2. 3A2 is nothing but conditions in regard to expert statement. So do you remember, for inclusion of expert statement, expert should not be a promoter. He should not belong to the group of promoter. He should give written consent. Such written consent should not be withdrawn until a copy of prospectus has been delivered with ROC. So those conditions, few students have missed out. You can see here, these are the conditions. For conditions, 2 marks. For correct conditions, 2 marks. And and disclosures on the face of prospectus, 2 marks. Date of publication of the prospectus, 1 mark. In this way allocation process happens. Next, 3B. 3B is about charges, registration of charges. So if a company creates charge on intangible assets or properties located outside India, Whether company is having duty to register charge or not, that is the question. Let's see examiner comments. 3b. Most of examinees answered correctly. No problem. So you have written correct answer. Allocation happens like this. For with respect to duty of company to register charge, these highlighted words tangible, intangible, are situated in India or outside India. Next, charge signed by the company charge holder together with the instruments. 2 marks will be allocated for this provision. Next one, 2 marks for analysis and 1 mark for conclusion. In this way, valuation happens. Next, next question. Or what do you mean by floating charge and when it gets converted into fixed charge? Crystallization of floating charge. Majority of students might have written correctly. So here also you can see, first of all, for floating charge, what is floating charge? 1 mark. And about crystallization, 1 mark. And conversion, crystallization of floating, floating into fixed charge. In what cases floating charge will be converted into fixed charge? Like that, you can see breach of terms, conditions of breach of terms and conditions of floating charge. Company goes into liquidation, and company not able to meet apply, company is not able to satisfy terms and conditions. So these points, 1 mark. Next, what happens when floating charge gets converted into fixed charge? you know the security becomes fixed and is available for realization by the lender. 1 mark. Again, repetition, you can see terms and conditions violated, company ceases to continue its business, company goes into liquidation. Yes, creditor can enforce the security. 1 mark for this step. So like this, marks allocation happens. Next question, 3c. The meaning of a word is judged by the company it keeps. Explain the concept of nociter ausosis. Examiner comment is very, very important with respect to interpretation of statutes. You can see here, majority of examinees lacked understanding of the concept of nociter ausosis. Some of the examinees resorted to provide vague answer, generalized answers. So they didn't give appropriate answer. They just mentioned, they just wrote generalized answers without proper substance. So that's why students lost marks with respect to this question. So 2 marks is for this explanation, and examples, 1 mark, 1 mark. At least if you have written this nociter ausosis, you will get 2 marks. Next, next one, 4a. XYZ Limited uses an accounting software for recording its financial transactions. Yes, keeping in the view of above issue, advise the company on following: audit trail, audit log requirements, and backup of books of accounts. Let's see examiner comments first. See, most examiners could not answer the question satisfactorily. What might be the reasons? They couldn't appropriately link the auditor observation to the provision relating to maintenance of audit trail and edit logs. To the provisions relating to the maintenance of audit trail and edit logs, the examiners got confused between backup, retention, and audit trail. But if you look at suggest answers, how marks allocation happens. First, audit trail mandatory from first day of the April 2023. Every company using accounting software shall use only such accounting software where audit trail is enabled. Feature of recording audit trail, edit log of such changes, audit trail can't be disabled. If you have written all these points, 2 marks for this step. Advice to the company, 1 mark. XYZ Limited has not complied with the audit trail and edit log. And journal entries were altered without creating edit logs, and audit trail feature was also partially disabled. And with respect to books of accounts, majority of the students, the answers, the certified copies I have seen, majority of the students, they told that yes, company has to maintain backup. On what basis? What is the frequency of backup? Daily basis. They forgot to write this word daily basis. That's it. 1 mark lost. And second thing, that backup should be maintained in India. That is also one more important point. And appropriate conclusion. You have to write conclusion. Better, just highlight these keywords. Next time when you are writing answer, whatever you feel, this is a keyword, this is a key point, just highlight it. Using pencil, just draw a free straight line. That's it. So 1 mark for provision, 1 mark for conclusion. So if you have written conclusion without provision, you'll get 1 mark or half mark. That's it. Next question. Sunroofing LLP has 6 partners. Mr. K is a partner in charge. So this is about LLP. Yes, in LLP, how a share of a partner can be transferred, or how share can be utilized to repay the firm debts. The remaining partner of sunroofings can forbid M to take part of the business. So might be, yes, one person, he died, another person transferred his share to son M. Let's see examiner comments with respect to this question. Most examinees correctly applied the provisions of LLP. So here students' performance is good. Next, question 5. Write down the functions and duties of NFRA. Simple question, ma, but examiner comment. A vast majority of examinees do not seem to have an idea about NFRA. Almost all the students, 99% of the students, they don't have an idea about NFRA. The question being asked a direct and simple question. Asking about functions and duties of NFRA, majority of examiners provided a generalized answers with repetitive statements. But if you look at such answers, points are very simple, ma. The only point, if you have read this question, your performance would be better. Your performance might be best. So these are the points. The role of NFRA: protecting public interest, protecting interest of the investors, creditors, other associates with the companies, associated with the company, body, corporate. So for this paragraph, 1.5 marks allocation will be done. And functions of NFRA, for each point half mark. So details of particulars of the auditor: recommend auditing standards, accounting standards, monitor and enforce compliance, oversee the quality of service, promote awareness, cooperate with national and international organizations, and perform other functions and duties. But what students did? They repeated the answers. They repeated the statements. That's it. Next one. This is also a simple question. 5 points on distinction between LLP and company. So performance would be definitely better only. In this question, examinees could correctly differentiate features applicable to company and LLP. So performance is good. Next one, C point. This is about General Clauses Act, about validity of the claims of the builders. Functionaries. So question is about functionaries and successors. So for each provision, yes, marks allocation might happen like this. Half mark for each and every provision. Section 17 is there, 18 is there, and you can see another provision. So like this, marks allocation, section 18, analysis. So in this way, finally, conclusion. Hence, the claim of company is not valid. So straight away, if you write last two paragraphs, you'll get 1.5 marks. But if you write all relevant provisions, you'll get full marks. And highlighted part, this should be in the key term. These are the keywords. This should be written like that. Rest of the words, you can write it in your own language. Clear? Next, coming to the last question, sixth question. So this is about satisfaction of charge. This is about satisfaction of charge. So question is lengthy, but answer is very simple. About satisfaction of charge, let's see. Yes, the question tests the procedural knowledge of examinees. Majority of the students have provided the correct legal provisions covering section 82 of the Companies Act 2013. So performance of students is good. And marks allocation also, I did it. 1 mark for time limit within 30 days from the date of satisfaction, or else extension is given up to 300 days. Sufficient, only with payment of prescribed additional fees. This point is also important. Just writing time limits alone is not sufficient. Prescribed additional fees. For this also marks allocation will be done. You wrote everything, but you didn't wrote this point. Half mark will be deducted, ma. Next one. If cause is shown by the charge holder, if cause is not shown by the charge holder, finally ROC issues certificate of registration of satisfaction of charge. Like this, marks allocation will be done. Next, 6b. So this is about deemed Indian company. If 50% of the shares of a foreign company, company incorporated outside India, which is having place of business in India, in that company, 50% of the capital, whether it is equity or preference or equity plus preference or no matter, 50% held by Indian residents, Indian body corporates, or both, then it is said to be deemed Indian company, and it has to comply with all the provisions of Companies Act, right? So here students' performance, let's see. Barring few examinees, only few students, except few students, majority of the students have given correct answers. That's it. And few examinees were not clear about the shareholding percentage. Students got confused, whether it is 50% or more, or less than 50%, or more than 50%, or at least 50%. Oh my god, students got confused with respect to the limits. That's what, many of my revision classes, even in my classes, wherever figure comes, wherever, majority or less than, this kind of words comes, I use it to indicate in symbols like, greater than or equal to 95%, greater than 51%, government company, you remember, at least 51%. Next, holding subsidiary company, more than half of the total voting power. So that's what ma. So students got confused with respect to these limits. Oh God. Next ma, define foreign exchange, foreign security. I have seen many certified copies. Student wrote incomplete answers with respect to these definitions. I'll tell you. Let's see examiner comment. Examiners could not define foreign exchange, foreign security as per FEMA. Examiners mistook of equating foreign exchange with foreign remittances or RBI reserves. They made an equation like foreign exchange equal to something like, inflow minus outflow, like that. Some uh, you know mistakes, mistakes, committed by the students. But if you look at the suggested answers with respect to foreign exchange definition, majority of the students, they wrote these 3 points ma. But they forgot to write this point. Foreign exchange means foreign currency. That's it. Half mark will be deducted. If you forget to write foreign exchange means foreign currency, half mark will be deducted. So you wrote these 3 points. Might be 1 mark. You might have got 1 mark, or you might have got half mark or 1.5 mark. But this is important one. Next, foreign security. Here also, foreign security means two types ma. Any security which is denominated or expressed in foreign currency, and foreign security includes security expressed in foreign currency but returns might be in Indian currency. So in foreign security, 2 points are there. For each point, 1 mark. Clear? Only you wrote 1 point, 1 mark you will get. You wrote 2 points, you will get 2 marks. So that's all about, ICA valuation, stepwise marks allocation, and examiner comments. You can also see for accounts and taxation. So you can see where majority of the students are committing mistakes. Clear? For example, accounts you take. Additionally, several examiners were unable to accurately compute the cost of land. So these mistakes you don't repeat in the next attempt. Getting my point? Like taxation you take, for example, taxation you take. Several examiners failed to mention the relevant section numbers of deduction available to the SSC under Chapter 6A. GST you take, for example, GST you take. Large number of examiners did not explicitly state that amount payable under reverse charge mechanism in case of services availed of independent director cannot be set off. So your answer might be correct, but it is not complete. You forgot to write this pointer. As a result, you are getting only half marks only. Is it clear? So don't do these kind of mistakes, and prepare well, perform better, achieve best. And I wish you all the best for your upcoming examinations.